Vi ska titta på några klipp härifrån John Halles senaste uppdatering om AI och vad man vill med människan och med jorden. Så vill jag läsa några verser här först ifrån Uppenbarelseboken 11 och 15. Den 7:e ängeln blåste i sin basun, då hördes i himlen starka röster som sa: Herraväldet över världen tillhör nu vår Gud och hans mode, och han ska vara kung i evigheters evigheter. Och de 24 äldste som satt på sina troner inför Gud föll ner på sina ansikten och tillbad Gud och sa: Vi tackar dig, Herre Gud, du allsmäktige, du som är som var, för att du har tagit makten, din stora makt, och trätt fram som kung. Folken vredgades och din vredes dag har kommit. Tiden när de döda ska dömas, och du ska löna dina tjänare profeterna och de heliga som fruktar ditt namn, små och stora. Och då du ska fördärva dem som fördärvar jorden. Nu ska vi titta på några klipp här där verkligen vi kommer att förstå att de som nu påstår att man vill rädda jorden sannoliken gör precis tvärtom.
Along the way. But they view this business of artificial intelligence, that's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. Intelligence is a human quality that's only given for humans, not any computer algorithm altogether. So they're starting off on the wrong foot, talking about intelligence that's artificial. Nevertheless, what they have come up with is something that will mimic, in other words, play act at being intelligent, to make decisions for people based on that quote-unquote intelligence that have no bearing on reality at all. And this is part of this process of destruction of the world, because the most important thing for us and people in general is to be in touch with reality, what reality is, and not just some make-up stuff, but reality is something God has engineered for us to understand our world. And if people get disconnected from reality, psychologists talk about psychosis. If you're in a psychotic state, you have broken with reality. This is what artificial intelligence is going to do for billions of people on the planet, to separate them from reality, substituting something that is not reality in the end. In America and in Europe as well. Let me just say about that, I can't go into the whole thing, but this whole business of immigration started mostly in Europe and then it spread to the United States. No other place in the world has a problem with illegal immigrants. Nobody wants to break into China, Russia, South America, in that direction. They're all coming here. They're coming from Europe as well.
By the way, I saw some technocrats, though, say, because China's in massive demographic decline. And so there was, I'm sure this person was a technocrat, New York Times or Economist or someplace, and they said, the solution for China's population decline is what? Immigration. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, that's what they're trying to do there, too.
Exactly. The whole business of this immigration started with a person who was a member of the Trilateral Commission in Europe, the head of the Trilateral Commission in Europe, by the way, by the name of Peter Sutherland. This is the guy who went around to every country in Europe to make them set quotas of the people who they would accept into their country before it was anybody coming in the first place. Then, when it's all started, they start to push the people northward. Then Sutherland went around to all the countries who were complaining that you're killing us here with this stuff. He convince them, no, you signed an agreement with the United Nations. You cannot refuse to honor, to not go, you can't go back on your word, to not, you have to accept your quota plus what else we give you now. This was the rat. This was trilateral policy from the get-go to de-instruct. No, it's not the word.
Deconstruct?
Deconstruct. Thank you. Europe, by making it a multicultural melting pot of goo so that they can basically wipe out the concept of the nation state there and make everybody one big happy family. Sutherland actually said the way to get to a sustainable economy is through immigration. This was a singular policy of Trilateral Commission members going back decades. I've been harping on this. We think nobody will listen, of course, but it's clear they're the rats that did it. And we're suffering this now. We see this stuff right now. This was all ignored by all these people in Biden administration, but not him only. It goes back a long ways.
There's a chart in the New York Times yesterday, how fentanyl drove a tsunami of death in America, coming in through immigration, uncontrolled, deliberately by technocrats and others.
Yes, exactly. And when I say the Trilateral Commission, these people proposed technocracy in 1973. They didn't tell anybody that way at that point. But that was the plan. Looking backwards, we can see this is exactly the thing that they did. When Brzezinski was brought in as co-founder, he brought this whole body of knowledge about technocracy. We see this every step of the way, that the nation state is being destroyed, culture, society is being destroyed, and there's no, we just cry. I mean, look, you can't stop it at this point. Everybody wonders why all these immigrants come in here, including terrorists, murderers, rapists, you name it. Doesn't anybody have a brain in Washington D.C. that could stop it? Well, even Trump couldn't stop it, and he still just keeps on.
Right. Yeah. It's totally out of control. So there's a famous cover of Time magazine from probably 13 years ago now, 2045, the year man becomes immortal. This is what they think that they're doing. So there's this huge, like, Tower of Babel religious component to this thing. We will be as gods.
Yep.
So this is what Altman says. Now, this week at the UN last Sunday, they enacted the Pact for the Future. And I'm sure it was at the UN, so they're all about helping us out, and right?
Yeah.
And this is the Sustainable Development Goals that lie at the heart of it. What do you think about this Pact of the Future? And
the significant thing was there was three different things, the elements of it. One was the Pact for the Future itself, but kind of an addendum, they called it. I think it was really a separate agreement, but it was the Digital Pact for the Future, talking about the digitalization of everything on the planet. And, somehow they've gotten this idea that if everything is digitized, and that what I mean by that is everything can be reduced to bits of data, down to your DNA being sequenced, and your iris and your facial recognition and everything else, all your transactions, purchases, digital currencies, etc. If everything in the universe can be digitized with a digital ID applied to every person on the planet, why, that will achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and all the things, like resource allocation, things like defeating global warming, for instance. Again, these people are really nuts, but this is a heart, and the way I look at it, that's going to be the heart of this whole thing going forward, is the digitization of everything.
You know, you talked about global warming, and I don't have it in my slide deck, but there was an article this week at the Washington Post. I don't know if you saw this, and it was a chart.
As being the determining con, this is the heartbeat of the con to convince people to do what they wanted to do, namely give up all your resources and your choices in life, etc. And this thing was phony from the beginning. It's taken on a life of its own, however, and these people think it's real, and everything at the United Nations now is all focused on defeating climate change. And this is what these sustainable development goals are all about in the first place. They're crazy. Every one of them can be picked apart to see exactly what they're talking about. But it will, if they were successful to get everything in place, you would see virtually the destruction of the planet. They say they're saving the planet. They're actually saying we're going to save the planet. They're just doing the exact opposite. Everything they're doing is destroying the planet along the way.
And we could